is Friday, April 3rd, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, nuclear breakthrough. After more than a week of intense negotiations, world powers and Iran announced that they have reached a deal. More than 147 people were massacred in an attack on a Kenyan university attributed to the Al-Shabaab terrorist group. And later on the show, it is Passover. We'll take a closer look on how it is celebrated around the world. Good morning, and we begin straight with the news that most of the world is discussing this morning. We begin with the historic nuclear framework agreement reached last night in Lausanne between Iran and world powers after a week of intense talks and a missed deadline. The foreign ministers of Iran and the P5+1 took to the podium last night to announce that they had agreed on a path towards reaching a comprehensive deal to curb Iran's nuclear program in exchange for a rolling back of international sanctions in 3 months' time. Shortly after the diplomats' announcement, U.S. President Barack Obama delivered a statement aired live around the world, including Iran, praising the agreement, claiming that if implemented, it would prevent Iran attaining the bomb and would render the United States, its allies, and the world safer. Obama noted that there is no daylight between the United States and Israel on security. He also said that the United States would continue to stand with Israel in the face of Iran's destabilizing policies and threats. Obama also later spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to brief him on the understandings. Netanyahu told him that the agreement paves the path for a nuclear-armed Iran and threatens Israel's survival. The understandings, which were hailed by Iran's foreign minister as a win-win, were greeted by dancing in the streets of Tehran, whose residents have been suffering under the yoke of crippling economic sanctions. Now, to discuss what all of this means, we are joined in studio by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning to you, Tal. By Haaretz senior defense analyst Amir Oren. Amir, good morning to you. And, of course, by our one and only Ron Friedman, news editor for the Morning Edition. Good morning to you. But first, let's go straight to Lausanne, where Israel Public Radio Foreign Affairs correspondent Gidon Kutz is standing by. Gidon, good morning. Sorry, has not yet. We'll go to him shortly, but first let's take a look at the following report that recaps the dramatic night yesterday in Lausanne and what transpired as the deal was reached.
President Obama in the Rose Garden 2 days after the deadline passed, finally hailing the deal done.
Today, the United States, together with our allies and partners, has reached a historic understanding with Iran.
So, what did the U.S. get? The breakout time. How long it would take Iran to build one bomb is increased from just 2 to 3 months now to a year. Major Iranian nuclear sites will be redesigned for civilian purposes only, and a strict regime of monitoring and inspections will last for at least 20 years. And what does Iran get? Sanctions relief, phased in over time. This was Iran's main goal. Also, Iran will still be able to research and develop advanced nuclear technology, and Iran will keep making non-weapons-grade uranium. Critics in Congress ready to kill the deal.
This deal is going to threaten America's national security interests, and it's going to lead to a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region in the world.
But a weary Secretary of State Kerry, sharply rejecting the idea, he got taken to the cleaners.
Did Iran win here?
No. Those people who criticize it like that, they don't have an alternative. This is the safest, best way to make the world safer by reducing the ability of Iran to be able to have a nuclear weapon.
Let's go straight to Gidon Kutz, who is still in Lausanne, where all of this transpired yesterday. Gidon, good morning to you. Really quickly, I mean, I'm assuming there was jubilation to a certain degree in Switzerland yesterday. But what was the thing, I mean, is there any information on what eventually transpired that this deal was reached late last night?
Well, on the first sight, this deal seemed not very bad for Israel. And maybe I start with the end. I've asked two senior Iranian officials who were there, who were members of the Iranian delegation to these talks. I asked the same question: if Prime Minister Netanyahu has to be afraid now from this nuclear program, nuclear Iranian program, and Hussein Faradun the brother of President Rouhani's brother and a counselor to the Ayatollah Khamenei told me, no, he shouldn't be afraid now. Why should he be afraid? Another Iran, Kamal Sabehi, just told me, yes, there will be always those who are afraid, and maybe he should be afraid, should still be afraid. The problem with the conditions that were read there, were read by Federica Mogherini and especially by Foreign Minister Zarif, were that Iran is now getting back its place among the family of nations.
And I think, I think that is the main point of this, that Iran is getting, you know, it feels as if Iran is getting a place, you know, very valid point, Mr. Kutza, that it's getting a place within, on the table of the Western community, so to speak. But exciting time, and thank you, Gideon Kutz, from Lausanne, Switzerland. I want to turn to my esteemed colleagues here around the table. Amir, I'm looking, let's start with this deal to begin with, okay? From the details that came out, and I know that your first answer will be that the devil is not in the details, but bear with me for a second. There were so many sticking points. The details are supposedly out, you know, whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, as they ask in our region. What is the thing that sprung out to you? Because when I'm looking at this, you know, it basically maintains a current situation and prevents Iran, if I'm saying it right, from reaching a, you know, nuclear bomb capability. It postpones it by a year. Am I correct in saying that? As opposed to a breakthrough into the 3 months.
That's a very fair description of the framework agreement, which, of course, is yet to be filled in.
Yeah.
No, before implementation, it has to be filled in 3 months' time. But the negotiators have been visibly going through the motions. They worked through the deadline. They made an extra effort, have gone the extra mile. This is going to show the world that a lot of serious effort has been invested. And the reason is that one should look beyond the next hill, beyond the details as tacticians do, and look at the strategic vision which President Obama has shown and has achieved. Because his main goal is to transform Iran, the Iranian regime, and get it closer to, if not Western democracy, this is, of course, not feasible, at least to a working relationship. And he is looking for an Iranian Gorbachev, an Iranian de Klerk, the South African reformer. And the way to go about it is to transform Iranian society and economy by lifting the sanctions, the price of which is halting the nuclear weapons effort. So all of the important details which technicians are going to work on until
3 months to work
June
on,
30th, this is very important, and verification is very important, and inspection and all of the rest. But the most important, the most salient fact here is that the US and the rest of the advanced world and Iran are going to transform their relationship. If there is an incentive for Iran to forgo its nuclear work, then it will work. If there is a hostile Iranian regime, it will get a nuclear weapon no matter what.
No matter what it wants. Before we continue this, there were, I mean, it's major news breaking around the world, obviously, as we mentioned. President Barack Obama gave a statement out yesterday. Before we talk about those reactions, let's have a listen to what both the American president had to say after this framework deal was reached, as well as not his counterpart, but a man who was very much involved, and everybody knows his name, and that's Zarif, the Iranian foreign minister, was part of all these negotiations. Let's have a listen.
The United States, together with our allies and partners, has reached a historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. And I am convinced that if this framework leads to a final comprehensive deal, it will make our country, our allies, and our world safer. Iran has met all of its obligations. It eliminated its stockpile of dangerous nuclear material. After many months of tough, principled diplomacy, we have achieved the framework for that deal. And it is a good deal.
All Security Council resolutions will be terminated. It will be an end of Security Council resolutions that have been adopted against Iran, starting from Resolution 1696 and ending with Resolution 1929. All of them will be terminated. Now, there will be certain limitations that some countries wish to impose against the Islamic Republic, and those limitations which do not include limitations in areas of finance, trade, and economy, and may include, from their perspective, proliferation areas, may continue for in our view, a brief period of time, and then suspended and terminated. This is the gist of the agreement, but we hope to be able to work out the final details of all of these agreements as we go on in the next 3 months.
That was the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Jawad Zarif trying to give the entire framework agreement over the podium. Tal Shalev, though, listening to I-24 News diplomatic correspondent, listening to Obama, listening to Zarif, were most likely, the upper echelon, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, very closely last night listening to that. What is the reaction of the Israeli administration?
Well, there should be no surprise that in a sharp contrast to the smiles and celebrations in Tehran and in the White House, in Jerusalem, there's a sour face that was immediately put on, but it's basically a pre-written response. No
matter what, even before looking at the details?
Wait, first of all, we're not at the final deal yet. Sure. So if we're talking about negotiation tactics and Netanyahu playing all along the way the hardliner position, this is not the time to back off from the hardliner position. He will continue to pressure in order to put pressure in order to improve the deal. Netanyahu's reaction is that this is a bad deal, that it gives Iran international legitimization to becoming a nuclear threshold state. It says it endangers the region, and he does say that he does demand in many ways from the world powers that in the work ahead of the comprehensive deal there will be some response or some regard to Iran's regional aggressions, a demand that might be backed by other countries in the region. But the fact is, and this is just an anecdote, it is a pre-written response. Even before the announcement was made, the Israeli intelligence minister released a statement, his response, his reaction to the agreement, even before
the agreement announcement was made?
Even before he heard the details of an agreement. It was a mistake, but it was that is exactly what happened. So at the end of the day, Israel's battle begins now, or maybe not begins now, but shifts into its final stretch now, because now is the upcoming 3 months. Now is the time to put in full power, and the question is, what kind of strategy will Netanyahu choose in this final stretch? Will he continue to confront with the administration, as he has done in the past few months, by passing the White House and going straight to Congress? Right. Or will he decide to maybe explore a new path of dialogue with the White House, a new path of dialogue with other members of the P5+1? And this is basically Netanyahu's decision. Today he will be convening a special discussion, a special meeting with his cabinet ministers to discuss the response. But this is, of course, just he has to do so. There's no urgency in doing it this evening, but Netanyahu is definitely not going to give up, and we won't be stopping hearing that it's a bad deal in the upcoming months. We will continue to hear that again and again.
Yeah. The sanctions relief is the most important part of the deal, obviously, for Iran, because sanctions have been good for parts of the Iranian regime. Those closest to the regime, the hardliners, have benefited from them.
Black market that we don't
right. Okay. But the people are now joyous because, as Zarif, and Zarif is a former ambassador to Washington, he knows how to bridge between the two peoples. The people in Tehran are going to be thankful, grateful to Zarif and Rouhani, and perhaps to Khamenei, who is very ill. And if one looks ahead towards the coming Iranian regime, Iranian leadership, this is going to strengthen the hand of Rouhani against people like Qasem Soleimani of the Quds Force.
Of the Quds Force. But, I mean, it's a deal that, listen, it was groundbreaking to the point that, and Tal just mentioned off camera before that, first of all, there was a beautiful and brilliant move that all of us, I think, in the press, were quite convinced that they're just coming out with a statement yesterday that that we're not going to see this. I mean, they basically came out with a framework agreement. They did. As promised in many ways, was very dramatic. The whole world was watching. To start with, Ron, I just want to take a look at some of the reactions. Apropos, this is what's going on in Iran, but how is the world taking to this news right now?
So like you said, I mean, it's making major headlines, front page news all over the world. We picked out a couple. The first one is the immediate reaction of the market. Reuters reports that oil prices fell by 4% after the announcement. That's immediate reaction on the ground. There we see the headline. And people are already looking ahead. They're saying, all right, if this is what's going to happen to the markets after just a framework agreement is signed.
And what's going to happen in June?
Right. We're looking ahead to June. They're saying OPEC, Saudi Arabia, other oil-producing countries are going to have to start reducing their output because Iran is going to be back in the game. Huge oil producer, and they're going to be back in the game. So we have to prepare for that. Another one. This is from the IRNA, Iranian news agencies. Every headline editor or headline writer selects his own headline. This is what they choose: Iran to continue nuclear activities in all its facilities.
Which it's not wrong.
Well, it's not only headlines. Immediately after the agreement was announced, and the State Department and the White House started to distribute fact sheets with the explanation of what exactly is included in the agreement, and Zarif himself went to Twitter and said, "Don't believe fact sheets." In these exact words, not the most diplomatic remark. Don't believe fact sheets. Don't believe the spins that are already starting to begin. So a lot of this depends on how each side markets it to their home base. So this is part of the thing. Of course, the Iranian news agency will market all of the achievements.
Exactly, the achievements.
Face saving being so all important. Not only in our region, but
if we're completely. But if we're looking at headlines like this, Oren, you mentioned that Iranians, this will strengthen the Rouhani aspect of the Iranian regime. But if we're looking at headlines as such, and what's going on around the world in the reactions to that, putting Iran in the game, in the financial game of the world, is a game changer also for the region in many ways financially.
Yes, but the futile attempt to connect everything which is going on in the region, Iran's subversive activities, its terrorist financing, all of that. This cannot take place alongside the nuclear weapons field.
Why?
Because even during the Cold War, when the United States and the Soviet Union were at loggerheads the world over, Korea, Vietnam, what have you, in the final analysis, in the mutual assured destruction game, to avoid a third world war with nuclear weapons, they have succeeded. And Iran, just like any other power in the region and outside the region, has its legitimate or illegitimate activities. Right. One cannot tie everything to this paramount effort. Now, moderation is, of course, relative. The Iranians are not going to give up on their aspirations, and we have the Shiite versus Sunni rift and all of that. And if one says until they cease and desist all of their activities, we shouldn't have a deal, this means that one doesn't want a deal at all. And this was not a bad deal for Israel.
No, and the thing is, I'm assuming, Tal, you'll agree with me, and with that we'll wrap up, that, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to most likely try and tie those things in. There was something I heard this morning. A new minister or somebody new within the Likud party, I think it's Dr. Burka, who mentioned that there should be an understanding that Iran has to recognize the right of Israel to exist in the final agreement. Is that something Netanyahu can even try and demand from the Americans?
Well, I don't believe that is something that could be included in the agreement, but Netanyahu definitely can try to influence the bad things that he sees in the deal. On camera, he'll say it's a bad deal. When you speak to Israeli diplomatic officials who are actually professionals who have been dealing with the issue, they do see positive elements in the deal. The idea now has to be how you can influence the final deal and put as many as possible positive elements in the deal.
The security establishment of Israel has suggested what you asked. Netanyahu rejected it and went the other route and failed. This is a failure for Netanyahu.
In many ways. Okay, first of all, thank you all for trying to break this down. I'm assuming we'll be discussing this a lot over the course of the next 3 months as we move along. Moving on to Kenya, because it was a day filled with news, sadly, yesterday, where armed terrorists stormed a university in northern Kenya, killing 147 people. in an attack targeting Christians. The Somali-based Islamic terrorist group Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack. Students said the gunmen separated Christians from Muslims and held hostages in the dormitory, setting explosives around the Christian hostages. Now, an intelligence report issued last week by security officials had warned that Al-Shabaab was planning an attack on major institutions in retaliation for Kenyan military actions in Somalia. Al-Shabaab has carried out numerous attacks in Kenya, including the 2013 attack at the Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi that left 67 people dead. First of all, let's take a quick look at the following report and what happened in Kenya yesterday and break it down from there.
The attack began at 5 a.m. Gunmen from Al-Shabaab, Somalia's militant Islamist group known to attack in neighboring Kenya, opening fire in dorms at Garissa University in northeast Kenya. According to an eyewitness, the attackers separating Christians from Muslims, shooting Christians on the spot.
Guys started jumping up and down, running for their lives.
At least 147 victims confirmed dead, scores wounded. Kenya's president is urging the country to stay calm.
We continue to pray for the quick recovery of the injured and the safe rescue of those still being held hostage.
The rescue effort is ongoing, a massive manhunt underway. Kenya's Interior Ministry releasing this wanted poster of the alleged mastermind, offering a $215,000 reward. Over a week ago, intelligence reports warned Al-Shabaab was targeting a major university in Nairobi. Police say security measures were taken.
Somalia's Al-Shabaab is linked to Al-Qaeda. A recent UN report cites 25,000 foreign fighters tied to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, hundreds of them from Somalia. Al-Shabaab's biggest attack in Nairobi was in 2013. 68 people were killed at a popular shopping mall.
We are also joined on the phone from Nairobi by freelance journalist Hannah McNeish. Hannah, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Terrible incident yesterday. Reactions on the ground currently, the incident clearly over, but reactions on the ground in Nairobi as to how this happened at all to begin with. I mean, there was supposedly some intelligence information in the beginning?
There was. There were a series of warnings put out last week when Western nations actually put a whole travel ban on the coast. And Nairobi has been on high alert. But really, I think what this attack shows is that you can warn universities that there might be an attack. You can tell people to avoid large shopping centres. But it's just so easy for these guys to wander in, just 5 men with guns to take, a place under siege for 11 hours or something. So, some of the students I spoke to yesterday said that they had seen some of the signs up around the university warning, of possible attacks as we approached Easter. But, it was April the 1st and they thought it might be a prank.
Jesus.
And also everybody thought that this was going to be in the capital.
No, definitely no. And in terms of obviously reactions after the fact, aftermath, any kind of extra security measures to be taken from now on in the area, what is the administration saying in terms of how this can be combated in the future?
Well, yesterday the president addressed the nation and he called on the Inspector General of Police to make sure that 10,000 police officers that had been enrolled were definitely trained. But I think this really does highlight the security vacuum. Everybody was waiting for the second Westgate. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And, this is also really linked to Kenyan soldiers fighting in Somalia. So the question will be asked again, is it worth it? Should Kenya withdraw slightly from its fight with Al-Shabaab, which, I don't think it can. But how can it keep people safe in just day-to-day institutions?
Indeed. Hannah McNeish, thank you very much for this report from Kenya. As we mentioned, the big news, sadly, the big news yesterday also, 147 people massacred in that attack in Kenya. As we move along to other news of the day, with Ron Friedman, in other headlines around the world, it was a tumultuous 24 hours.
It was a big news day yesterday, and we'll get right to it. A story in Yemen. Clashes have been going on there for the last 2 weeks more or less. I've got this report from the BBC. Yemen crisis, rebels storm presidential palace in Aden. We're talking about the Iranian-backed Houthi militias. They're advancing with tanks, armored vehicles, and this is despite the Saudi-led airstrikes on that area.
And we're going to stop on this for a second, go straight to the point, Amir Oren, that you made earlier in the show, okay? Because many people who sat in this studio argued, how can the world sit with the so-called good Iranians in Lausanne while the bad Iranians and the proxies in Yemen are doing what they're doing?
Well, if you step back and look at the regional turbulence, and it also has to do with Al-Shabaab acting out of Somalia against high-density targets in Kenya, a shopping mall or university, wherever people are going to be in large numbers. It all started in Yemen, in South Yemen, in Aden, in 1969 when the British left. This was the last move of the colonial era. The British have left, and into this void
I know,
came
but
the
in this
Iranians.
day and age, I think Ron and I are right. But the empires left a void.
The empires left the void, and right now, of course, all the local forces are battling for control of their own countries or of entire regions, cultures, societies. This is not something which can be imposed from outside. No one is going to send American boys, British boys, French boys, whoever, or Israeli boys to try and impose order on these areas. They are going to battle it out, sad as it may sound, but we are in for the long haul.
For the long haul. One more headline,
One more, all right, from Yemen as well. This is from Al Jazeera. We're talking about Al-Qaeda forces freeing prisoners in a mass prison break, freeing an
They're in Yemen
leader.
as well.
Also in Yemen. As if it wasn't tumultuous enough, Al-Qaeda is interfering there. They freed Khalid Bartafi, a senior Al-Qaeda figure who'd been held in a prison there for over 4 years.
And staying on that point, if it was, as you mentioned, Ron, the rebels in Aden taking over what they took, Al-Qaeda also vying for power in Yemen as well.
And Saudi Arabia by remote control too. It is also, because this is a buffer, if Yemen falls, Saudi Arabia is next, much like Kuwait in 1990. Has threatened Saudi Arabia. So, of course, oil interests, the Saudi kingdom, all of this is involved, and Yemen is the first line in this strategic battle.
Domino. Sadly, all the time we have, I want to thank all my esteemed colleagues in studio. Do stay with us. When we get back, something completely different. It will be a closer look at Passover. So do stay with us first. As in every morning, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. It is I-24 News Morning Edition on this Friday, April 3rd. Thank you. It takes, I was about to say a horrifically chauvinistic thing that it takes the brain of 3 women to find out the date. Yes, damn me. Okay, it is April 3rd, 2015, and it is the time to say hello to Tal Shalev yet again. Because she is the woman of Friday, and of course to also Ronnie Stav. I'm finding it very hard to speak. I'm incredibly tired. I went in straight to Tal Shalev with my favorite, my favorite political segment, which is the way politicians take photos, tweet themselves. Yes, it's the Instagram segment.
Well, today we're going to talk, we had this very exhausting week trying to, you together, trying to follow what is happening in Lausanne from afar. It has been impossible. This is the place
from afar being the leading word on that, yes.
Yeah, but this is the place and the right venue to extend our gratitude to all of the very successful and very good journalists and journalists that have been tweeting and Instagramming for us to try and get the atmosphere. But basically, until yesterday, most of the journalists there were doing nothing. They were frustrated with doing nothing.
I don't know if nothing. They were probably sitting in the bar.
No, they were sitting in a press room and waiting for statements, which basically said nothing.
Mhm.
So basically, that was
The good surprise.
But there have been a few iconic photos that have emerged from this round of talks. Here we see John. It's a bit okay.
But it was nice. It was
Yeah,
nice.
it was
I
nice,
enjoyed
yeah.
it.
So this is running really too fast, so I'll try to speak very, very fast. But if you could just like pause, if the director could pause.
But this is
okay. So just a few of the pictures. This is an Instagram account by Ali Araji, who is. Well, it's not clear exactly what he is, if he's a journalist or he's an official in the Iranian government, because he is the nephew of Abbas Araghchi, who is one of the chief negotiators.
Okay.
But he was in Lausanne. He's like one of the social media whizzes in Iran. He was in Lausanne, and he tweeted a lot of photos of Zarif. We can move on. We can move on and see some more photos.
Yeah.
This is a different picture from a different journalist there. We see Zarif and the Chinese foreign minister. We can move on.
Yep, and
we can now run through the photos.
Let's move through the photos now.
Okay,
Yes.
a very nice picture by the EU spokesman Catherine Ray. A picture of you can see Mogherini, Sherman, and John Kerry discussing the details. And this is the iconic photo of this round of talks. You know, John Kerry, as he was a hit success in Lausanne. There was even a piece on BuzzFeed that says there's Kerry mania in Lausanne.
Yes, Kerry Mania. Well, when Kerry Mania, stands on a balcony, looking at the future,
looking towards the
vision, exactly.
The vision. So many words you can attribute to that. And here, Kerry, we're in this Beau Rivage Hotel, in this amazing monumental hotel on Lake Geneva. Definitely, I could think of worse places to have this round of negotiations, even though it was long and exhausting. Of course, here in Israel...
He was a man who was not at the Beau Rivage.
Exactly. He was not at the Beau Rivage, but this is Netanyahu giving a statement warning or calling on world powers to insist on a better deal. We can move on. And this photo by Mary Harf is a photo that the White House released of the negotiating team briefing President Obama.
No, what's iconic about this is because what I love, as you said, Iran talks through the Instagram lens. This is gesturing also to the world. Obama involved is being kept up to speed with everything. Nobody's just a conduit. Kerry's not doing anything. Oh, there's a read.
But also projecting a very serious and discussion on the issue, trying to show that everyone is pulling all their weight on it. But moving on to, if we were talking about Obama, then we'll continue to talk Obama.
Yes, Obama.
Because definitely Obama had a very good April Fool's Day joke. Let's see it.
Okay, let's see it. You have the joke.
Let's see Obama's April Fool's
He's
joke.
got a Fool's Day clip.
Hello, everybody. This is not Frank Underwood. This is Barack Obama. Frank learned it from me. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Playing off House of Cards, talking to the camera.
Yes. Obama has disclosed in the past that he is a fan of Frank Underwood. He did say in the past that I wish things that were that ruthlessly efficient. This guy's getting a lot of stuff done. So definitely.
He'd like to push women off to the tracks of subways.
Wouldn't we all like to be Frank Underwood?
I actually would like to be his wife. But in many ways, I got to tell you, this is the perfect time to say that the third season of House of Cards, which has gone completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's totally insane.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I know, I'm from the 80s. But
I'm sorry, I was like, wow, that's
insane. But if maybe if there was a Frank Underwood, maybe the Middle East would look differently. Who knows?
Oh, I don't know. Just continuing on that thought,
Right.
when I saw the last season of House of Cards season 3, I definitely thought about the upcoming showdown between Obama and Congress on the Iran deal. If we look at what goes on there, it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
How this plays out. Very true.
A different friend of President Obama is Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel, his former chief of staff, today he's the Chicago mayor.
And
so
people sometimes are saying that maybe this is a man who's gunning for a presidentship one day. Yes.
Yes, definitely. He got into trouble on Instagram, actually, in a very interesting way. This guy, his name is Albert Griffith. He sells in a Chicago grocery store. So he wrote on Instagram. He posted this 2 months ago, but Rahm Emanuel dropped by and he said, "The mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, came by my job. Still can't this motherfucker though."
Whoa!
Beep.
Yeah, my jaw dropped.
But then...
That's not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
No, that is not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
That's probably the other way around.
Yeah.
And in some miraculous way, this photo this week gained a viral, got a viral trend and went totally nuts. So people went to speak to this guy, Albert Griffith, and he also, so he told GQ that he's real cheap.
Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah, Rahm Emanuel is cheap. He said he was smiling and cheesing and stuff. I'm like, dude, come on. You're only doing that because you're trying to be elected. You're trying to make it look like you're a man of the people, but you're not.
That's every politician.
That's every politician.
Listen, yeah.
But
and cheap, I don't know. Yeah.
One should be very cautious with whom he takes selfies. This is the lesson that should be learned.
Yes.
And last but not least, our former president, Shimon Peres, as you know, isn't bored at all. And yesterday, he went to launch a Game of Thrones exhibit in Tel Aviv. Since I have no knowledge at all of Game of Thrones, you can start here to debate.
Listen, my only knowledge of Game of Thrones is because I live with a man. Okay, and Game of Thrones is a great series. It's also soft porn.
Yes,
it is.
Yes,
it really
it's
is.
soft porn, but I will go out on a limb and say, wow!
And Peres took the advantage. You know, Peres likes...
He knew who to take a selfie with.
He knew who to take a selfie
job.
with. Exactly. This is Michal Ansky. She's like a celebrity chef in Israel.
And a pineapple.
And a pineapple. So when he went to Game of Thrones, he dropped by, yes, and Michal Ansky posted this photo.
This is the Master Chef guru mama of Israel.
Definitely, definitely. And she actually went to school with me, but that's on the side.
No, okay.
If we're looking for our connections to celebrities.
I mean, I want to look at that picture again, though, because we have to break this down. If we can just take a look at, okay. First of all, Peres looks a little bit like somebody help me expression. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little like, help! And then, girls.
Maybe he's not fond of pineapples.
Why the pineapple?
It was a very busy day, and they were at the...
She was just holding the pineapple.
And she has a food market at the seaport, so maybe she was presenting the goods and the quality of the goods there. This is a very well organic growed pineapple.
Or it's a picture that shows that Michal Ansky and Shimon Peres gave birth to a pineapple. But
maybe that's what happened that day.
Yeah. But did you notice she's wearing like a very Zionist shirt?
She does. She looks a little bit like somebody from a kibbutz.
Yes, with the pineapple. A lot of pineapples in kibbutz. Very tropical in the kibbutz.
Very tropical here in general.
Okay, sorry, Friday. And we are moving along to the big news of the day, which is Roni Stav is here because it's Passover. It is the holiday that always made me want to convert to Christianity. But that said, yes, Roni, Passover.
Yes, I have some Passover news. I'm going to make some Seder in your Passover.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I was thinking about this.
You had to.
I had to. I woke up and it made sense when I woke up and it didn't know, but it's okay.
It is Passover.
Okay, so let me help you with this Passover coming up. So first of all, I want to tell you which wine is kosher for Passover.
Which wine?
I think that's an...
Which is?
I'm right there. I think it's an important one. So it looks like, first of all, in order for wine to be kosher, the production must be supervised by a rabbi, have only Sabbath-observed Jewish males, But not every kosher wine is kosher for Passover wine.
Really?
Apparently, I know. So it looks like
like your regular Manischewitz doesn't cut it.
No. So while yeast is key in the conversion of sugar into alcohol during fermentation, the main difference for wines that are kosher for Passover is that they must be made from yeast that have not been grown on bread, as well as being kept out of contact with bread, grains, and dough.
Oh, for the love of God! Does it mess you up?
No, it's okay.
That's
okay.
That's the key point. It's okay.
Now, speaking about Manischewitz, we have a little clip from BuzzFeed, I think.
Yes,
we have
please.
that clip.
Let's take a look at Manishewitz's history. There we go.
No, not the history. How people...
This is Manischewitz.
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 Looks like we're getting turned.
Smells good.
It smells like white wine.
A little vinegary.
A little strong.
L'chaim.
Oh, that's delicious.
It's like a sweet wine.
It's a sangria. Yeah, it's grape juice.
This is incredible.
Tastes like
I love it. They made the Goyim drink the Manischewitz.
They're trying the Manischewitz. We couldn't hear them, but at the end he's like, it tastes like a hangover. That's probably the best moment. And he's like, it just tastes like a hangover.
Made out of Welch's grape jelly. Ugh.
Yeah, and they're like, it's a whole, BuzzFeed was doing a really good job in just giving people that have no introduction with Jewish food.
Right.
All types of Jewish food. So there's kugel there, and there's gefilte fish. It's a really good one. Check it out. It will make you happy.
And I think that to unsuspecting people, if you bring them gefilte fish, the first reaction will be, why eat gray food? Right? Seriously.
They're all like, so there's a lot of water and like a big
gray
thing inside the water, like just a big chunk of something. Yeah, it's a very nice.
I have to admit, gefilte fish is my secret pleasure.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how you know you're a real Ashkenazi.
I'm horrified. I'm really horrified.
We'll forgive you for that one.
You're absolved.
So we started with wine, and I know you were concerned about which wine can you drink, but we also need to know, what can we smoke? Is that kosher for Passover? I think that's very so Forward.com did the work for us, and we're now understanding, is pot kosher for Passover?
Is it?
Okay, so here's the thing. So this intriguing misconception is saying that hemp is unkosher for Passover for Ashkenazi Jews, speaking about Ashkenazis, who avoid kidniyot, legumes. But if you don't eat it, if you don't make hash brownies, so it looks like everyone can smoke.
Good, okay.
Yeah, no, Ephraim...
Don't look too excited, Tal.
It's like, yeah. Yes. So Ephraim Zalmanovich, he's the chief rabbi of Maskeret Batia, and he's also the author of the book Alcoholism and Drugs in Judaism. He devoted himself for this subject.
Alcoholism and Drugs in Judaism?
No, but he devoted himself for it after his mother and sister were diagnosed with cancer. And what he's saying is that the Talmud position on all drugs is that you become enslaved to an addiction. But if the people with terminal illnesses or chronic pain, in this case, the addiction causes less harm than the pain itself.
And I will beg to differ and say that if people live in the Middle East and have to go through this every single day, maybe there are some things that they need.
Absolutely.
I
completely agree.
Pot is kosher or
pot
illegal?
Is kosher, and if it's illegal in certain places, or you got the please and joy and yes, and just blow my way.
Okay.
But so alcohol and drugs, in respect of freedom, holiday of freedom, let's talk about people that are not free. Teresa Gucci, I don't know her name, Real Housewives of New Jersey. She is now an official federal inmate since last January. She is in the federal correctional institution in Danbury, Connecticut, for a 15-month sentence after pleading guilty to tax fraud. So Teresa, good luck. And we have Lauren Heal. She was an inmate last year as well, from 2005 till 2007. She was failing to pay taxes. Some people are free and some people are not. Bruce Jenner might not be free as well after being part of a very crucial and fatal car crash, but looks like he wasn't texting or drinking at the time, so maybe he won't be in jail.
And in the short time that we have, real quick, Passover, where are you going, Tal?
I'm going to Ramat Golan.
Okay, that's right on the Syrian border. Good for you.
I'm staying around.
You're staying around.
Yeah,
but it is the time for Passover funk, right?
Yeah.
Passover
funk.
So let's finish the show. Actually, do stay with us. There is the best of the week that was, which concluded with a monumental deal with Iran, between the world powers and Iran. We have to stick it in again. Stay with us, but we're going to leave you right now with Passover funk, whatever that means.
Face up for cups go, holy Moses, Egyptian go. This one for family, the Haggadah, straight masterpiece. Matzah, Maro, eating it up at the Seder. Got kid along with Saint Laurent, said Afikoman for later. Here comes blood, oh red. Papa Moses, he's a magician from lies.
Welcome back. It is still Wednesday, April 1st, 2015. This is still the morning edition. Not everything I say today is a joke. And I am still Yael Levi, last I checked. Now, a very important issue. 2 years after getting a double mastectomy, actress and director and humanitarian Angelina Jolie announced last week that she had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed to avoid the risk of ovarian cancer, the disease that killed her mother at age 56. Jolie, the 39-year-old, carries a mutation of the BRCA1 gene that increases her risk for both types of cancer. She said she went public with her decision so women around the world would know about options available to them. Research showed that her 2013 decision to have a double mastectomy to cut her risk of breast cancer increased demand for genetic testing in what was dubbed the Angelina effect. Last month, a study by information and advocacy group AARP found that BRCA1 testing rates increased nearly 40% after Jolie came out with her announcement in 2014. We're joined in studio by founder and executive director of Bracha, that's blessing in Hebrew, Lisa Cohen. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning.
And because it's an issue that actually connects to us all women, we're also joined by Merav Savir for a different second. Good morning, Merav. But first, let's watch the following report on Jolie's dramatic decision and break it down from there.
One of Hollywood's most public faces tonight is sharing a very private decision. Angelina Jolie says a recent blood test detected what could be signs of early ovarian cancer, the very disease that took the life of her mother. About 20,000 American women get ovarian cancer each year. Most will die from it. And so last week, Jolie had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed, a preventative surgery that she calls the best option. I told myself to stay calm, to be strong, and that I had no reason to think I wouldn't live to see my children grow up and to meet my grandchildren. It is a surgery that comes with severe consequences. I will not be able to have any more children, she writes, but I feel at ease with whatever will come. It's the second stunning health revelation from this leading lady. Nearly 2 years ago, Jolie underwent a preventative double mastectomy after testing positive for BRCA1. Women who carry this gene mutation have a nearly 65% risk of breast cancer and a 39% risk of ovarian cancer.
I didn't expect there to be so much support, and I was very moved by it.
The so-called Angelina effect prompting more women than ever to get genetic testing for cancer, a reaction that surprised the actress, as she told George Stephanopoulos last year.
It's connected me so much to other families, other women. It's been a really beautiful journey.
But carrying a gene mutation, Jolie says, does not mean a leap to surgery. This time, she emphasized that she and other women just like her have options. She writes, I feel feminine and grounded in the choices I am making for myself and my family. And Jolie also says that when you're faced with decisions like the one that she just had to make, you realize what's important in life. She also now says that her children will never have to say, my mom died of ovarian cancer.
We're also joined on the phone by the director of the oncogenetics from Sheba Medical Center, Dr. Eitan Friedman. Dr. Friedman, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I want you to stay with the discussion, though, because I'm turning to Lisa first. Lisa, I know, first of all, you are the, basically the founder and executive director of Bracha, Blessing, and that's the Proactive to Prevent HPOC. But I want to hear your personal story first, okay? You actually made a very difficult decision yourself, didn't you?
Yes.
What was that? Why don't you tell us?
Well, for many years, my family were ill with cancer. My sister got ill at 36, and my mother was diagnosed at 49, so they were coping with cancer at the same time. At that time, we didn't know that it was hereditary, even though it was mother and daughter, and we didn't have enough information to treat it properly, so they both passed away early. And at that time, I found out and did a genetic test, and found out that I also carry the mutation, the same as Angelina Jolie, BRCA1. And so I realized I had to make these big decisions, and seeing as I was exactly the same age as my sister got ill, I was rushed to surgery. I wanted to do both a mastectomy and the oophorectomy, so I would be here for my 3 children. That was my ultimate decision, responsibility I took as a single mother of 3 children. I had to be here, and I was going to do anything to live.
When did you go through the procedures?
I was also 39, like Angelina. It's a difficult age to decide to go through oophorectomy, and from the 2 operations, there's much more fear with doing the oophorectomy.
The oophorectomy being the
ovaries.
And it also brings you immediately into menopause, doesn't it?
Yes,
I mean, your body goes after the operation it goes through, a very hard process itself, correct?
It's not just going into menopause, but because it's immediate from generally in a woman's body, it would be over a period of time.
Now, Lisa, I want to ask Dr. Friedman first, though. Dr. Friedman, to begin with, I think, when we're listening to stories as such, and I think it's commendable, but in many ways, there are people who will argue that these are operations, that these are, mutilating yourself, so to speak. Does the medical community have specific information that this does prevent cancer? Because there are arguments that these are procedures that don't necessarily need to take place.
No doubt about it. That it's been proven times and again that the only way to actively reduce your risk for developing breast and/or ovarian cancer is risk-reducing surgery. There is absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind, and anybody who doubts that does not read the literature and doesn't know what he's talking about. It's absolutely the only means to actively reduce the risk. There are some women who prefer to adhere to an early detection scheme. It's very effective in terms of breast cancer, but it does not actively reduce the risk. There is no early surveillance scheme for ovarian cancer, and this phrase translates to the fact that 75% of women diagnosed with ovarian cancer every year in Israel or elsewhere in the world. The disease is not limited to the ovarian tissue itself, which reduces the chances of surviving this disease. So, in essence, it is recommended for individuals, for women who want to actively reduce their risk for developing breast and ovarian cancer to take their fate in their own hands and actually do the right thing for them. To reduce, to perform risk-reducing surgery.
Would you recommend this? Would you recommend this? And I'm just thinking out loud, Lisa. When you had the surgery, you were 39, and you had your children. At the end of the day, after a surgery as such, a woman cannot have children anymore. Am I correct in saying that? Obviously.
Yeah, but there are developments that help women before that age. We're talking about from 35 onwards to take out the ovaries. And there are now developments that you can take out the eggs, freeze them, and then take out the ovaries, and then be pregnant and be there for your children.
How old are your children?
I have 2 soldiers and a daughter who's 14.
It's 14. Would you, and your daughter, are you concerned? Is this something, is this a type, I'm assuming obviously you are concerned. That's a stupid question. But your daughter, this is something that you would recommend that she gets herself checked out at some point to see if she carries the gene as well?
I think my children have grown up with the information in our housing, as I've been volunteering for the last 8 years, ever since I had the operations, after they lost their grandmother and aunt. I think they will automatically know to have the test, but I don't spend my time worrying about it because it's something I won't know until they're 25, when it's the recommended age in Israel.
In Israel too.
Have it.
And Dr. Friedman, do we find that around the world, as was mentioned in our report, that women get checked more often because of what we call the Angelina effect, so to speak? That there's more.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. There's certainly an effect of a celebrity coming out and saying, guys, these are the realities, you should get tested. Not only there is the Angelina Jolie effect in terms of genetic counseling and testing, but there's also a notable effect in the number of women who actually seek risk-reducing surgery. So if that was a no-no at the beginning of around the 2001, now women are actively asking for that option, and we're more open about it, about discussing these surgical options with them. And I think it has a very, very positive effect. Not that I'm advocating only just do that, but I'm saying women should have choices and they should make the right choices, and it's a very, very personal decision. And the fact is that ever since Angelina Jolie has done the surgery, the number of women in Israel who elected to perform risk-reducing surgery has tripled or quadrupled. And it's a very, very encouraging thing to know that women do make the right choices, do make appropriate decisions based on science.
I know, right? The world should trust us more. I agree. Dr. Friedman, thank you. Yes, you wanted to say.
In our organization, Bracha, our main aim is to give information. We find that people don't have the right information. There are even doctors that aren't giving enough information, and we give the information so each woman can make the right choice for herself.
Okay. And this is the organization. We'll do this real quick. If you take a look at me, this is Bracha, and in the Middle East, in Israel. Basically, for information, as mentioned, information about this very, very difficult procedure, but recommended to be checked nonetheless. Lisa, thank you so much. And we locked you in studio because we're moving to something completely different. Has nothing to do with this. Much more important. That was the wiper. Yes, Merav. For the viral spiral that is the web review.
The web review.
The web review.
A lot different than wondering when my next doctor appointment is.
Yes, I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we're going to start off with Sports Illustrated. Keith Olbermann of ESPN tells NCAA to pull Final Four out of Indiana. This is all backlash from the Indiana Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
Athletes, though. Come on.
They've all come out.
They've come out.
It is not only Keith Olbermann, this is the NFL has come out. Even NASCAR has come out condemning what Indiana is doing. And just for the record, what Indiana has done is that they voted into effect the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which basically lets people discriminate on the basis of religion. So there was a whole big deal.
It enables people to be homophobic.
That's exactly what it is. It's basically if a wedding cake shop doesn't want to sell a cake to a couple because they're gay, well,
there you go.
I'm a Christian, I'm allowed to. So what's come out is that Keith Olbermann went on a really long rant about the fact that the NCAA, which is having the Final Four in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend, needs to pull out. And not only that they host their headquarters are there, they should move their headquarters out of there, that the NFL should move the Super Bowl from there, and a lot of people are pushing for this to really ostracise Indiana.
Yeah. Okay,
discriminating in a different way.
The brave, home of the free, but listen, it's a commendable move given that, what they call the Religious Act?
The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which, just to point out, 20 other states have. They're just voiced differently, and they were voted into effect when LGBT rights weren't such a high priority and a big topic.
Yes,
moving on. We're going to Indonesia, where models in gas masks show environmental crisis. They were wearing designer dresses, gas masks, and rubber boots as they walked down the runway in Indonesia.
I thought that was the Tel Aviv look.
Only on days like today when it rains, or when we have sandstorms. What they did, it's in an area that was named one of the 10 most polluted places on Earth in 2013.
Yeah, that's a great way
it's an initiative between models and Greenpeace, and it's part of a campaign called Detox that actually huge companies like Zara and Adidas are also taking part in, and they're committed to the campaign. So
more power to them, for happy news. But
from happy news, if you want to. Okay. Moving on, Robin Williams. There was the whole fight for his estate, and during that fight between the mother and children, it came out that Robin Williams restricted use of his image for 25 years after his death. So he really thought this one through. He passed on the right.
Okay, yeah. Not
he
a laughing matter.
No, it was uncovered during. It was uncovered that he left a message saying he wants to restrict usage of any images of himself for 25 years. And he passed on the rights to his name, signature, and photographs to the Windfall Foundation, which is set up in his name. And what it means is that his image can't be digitally inserted into films or advertising like they did with Audrey Hepburn.
Okay, it's not that we can't watch his films now for 25 years.
No, it's just that you can't use him in anything else.
He cannot be in a Pepsi commercial. Yeah, I got you.
In a Pepsi commercial making imitation. Exactly. And it's actually come out that it's because of what happened surrounding the Michael Jackson estate, where they think this is where the IRS claimed that the government is owed more than $500 million in taxes from his publicity rights.
I gotta say, problems that only celebrities have after they die.
Yes, and problems for celebrities while they're still alive. The roast. This Comedy Central roast.
I'm sorry, Lisa, that was the roast of the century. This is actually the main news of the day, Justin Bieber. Go ahead.
All right, so comedians are actually under fire for the transphobic jokes that they had against Bruce Jenner during the Justin Bieber roast. And we actually, I believe we have a short segment of the roast that doesn't have to do with Bruce Jenner.
Yeah.
Now, I got to keep it real with you, Justin. You've been through some hard times. Now, when your mama was 17 years old and got pregnant, everybody told her to get an abortion, right? And they still trying to convince her right now. But Justin's life changed when Usher heard one of his songs and liked it, which only goes to prove that Usher ain't black.
I gotta say, I mean, Justin Bieber being roasted seriously is like a gift.
To all of us.
Yeah, to mankind, to the world. But the decision to go and bash it into Jenner is really, really bizarre. Who was in that roast?
So everybody from Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy
made an appearance. I mean, even he had jokes about Bruce Jenner, to Martha Stewart making jokes about three ways. It was a very interesting mix of celebrities, but the big thing that came out of it is that they're all being attacked for the jokes that they made against Bruce Jenner. Mind you, his daughter was in the audience and his stepdaughter was in the audience, and some of the jokes they were making is, if you marry Justin Bieber, who's going to walk you down the aisle? The only man in the family is Chloe.
Oh my God. So sadly all the time we have, but on that happy note, stay classy. Now I had to say that. When we get back, something completely different, which will be a closer look into focus. Stay with us. First, the news. Thank you for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition on this April 2nd, 2015. And the place to be, because the next item, the next issue, is a very important one, and one in major contention in Israel over the course of the last several years, sadly with a development over the course of the last 24 hours. Israel is set to force illegal African immigrants to choose between leaving to a safe third country in Africa or face imprisonment. The Israel Interior Ministry announced yesterday a new policy set to be implemented in the coming days by Israel's Interior Ministry that determines that Eritrean and Sudanese asylum seekers who come to renew their visas will be given a choice: leave the country or be sent to prison for an indefinite period. The regulation, seeking to expel a population of upwards tens of thousands of people who arrived in Israel illegally in recent years to third countries, the names of which have not been disclosed as of yet, is coming under harsh criticism by human rights groups. They claim that aside from the images of black people being rounded up and forced to leave the country being a PR nightmare for Israel, the policy itself is immoral and is unlikely to be approved if challenged in the High Court. Now, the new deportation policy comes as a new light shines on the plight of the asylum seekers, or infiltrators, as the government and many Israelis call them. Earlier this week, news emerged of an infant child, migrant parents dying in what is becoming known here as baby warehouses. The fifth death of an infant in 6 weeks has prompted outrage in Israel and has driven the government to pledge around $3 million to solve the problem of overcrowded and unhygienic childcare facilities. But to further discuss this, and this, what I would call, and this is my personal opinion, a terrifying new policy trying to be implemented by Israel regarding this deportation, we are joined in studio by asylum seeker from Darfur, Mutassim Ali. Mutassim, good morning to you, and thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
And also by the public policy coordinator in the Hotline for Refugees and Migrants, Sigal Rosen. Sigal, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And by social worker Yonit, I'm going to let you pronounce it. UNICEF Organization. Thank you. Iris Alter. Iris, thank you for being with us. Now, before we continue, let's first take a look at Merav Savir's report about a day in the life of one of the 280,000 migrant or asylum seekers, whichever way you want to choose to call them, leaving in Israel today, and break it down from there.
More than 2,000 kilometers from home, separated from his family by a genocide that killed more than 300,000 people and displaced 2 million. Militias raided Bahar's hometown in Darfur in 2003.
I see many people died, and at the same time the flame is smoking on the sky. All the villages burned it, They raped the women, killed the children, and me and my family, we run in the different directions.
After spending time in Sudan, being targeted by the Sudanese security forces, tortured at times, his uncle recommended he leave. Bahar applied for UNHCR protection in Egypt in 2004, but the situation there worsened for asylum seekers. And in 2007, he came to Israel.
So I decided to come to Israel because I do know it's the only country that can give me the protection. Because these people, we are facing the same bad experience. I mean, their survival, and they suffer so much. And it's the only one stable democratic country in the Middle East, so I should go, and these are very remarkable people that which can give me protection.
He's been here for nearly 8 years, has learned the language and the culture. Now he's taken it on himself to help his community. Apart from having a full-time job, Bahar chairs a foreign community association. He teaches English, Hebrew, and computers. And the association helps those from different tribes from Darfur maintain their cultures while helping them adapt to the Israeli way of life. He also assists members of the community as their translator, accompanying many on different errands.
The asylum seekers also, some are suffering from the disease, so we accompany with them and go to translate them how to get the treatment.
On this specific day, he's taking a member of the community to a doctor who helps refugees.
He's going here to get the treatment, and then they will see if they can treat him or they can transfer him to another hospital, actually, because he doesn't have the health insurance. Yesterday, the ambulance, he was very unconscious, and they took him by the ambulance to the Ikhluf. And then the doctor in the Ikhluf, they examining him, and they already discover his disease. He has the kidney failure, and this will cost a lot of money to get the treatment. And then they ask him, and they say, actually, I don't work, and I haven't got any money.
Bahar makes these trips about twice a week, but for him, it's not a burden or much work.
I have energy, and this is what I'm so much optimistic, and this is something, it's not just an image, it's a gravity, because I have feeling inside. Suffering is a long suffering. It's connected from Darfur to here, and I must have to do my best to help others. Even if I work my hours, 8 hours to work, and then I come home, I have time to go and help another guys too. And this is, I'm proud of this, and I am doing, It's okay, I'm managing.
Joined in studio by Mutassim Ali. Mutassim, I want to start with you. A story, obviously, that you know very well. You're one of the big voices of the refugee, of the asylum seekers population in Israel. And you actually, this morning yourself, you came in from Holot, correct?
Right, from Holot, all the way from Holot. And I think about the Interior Minister's announcement, it's not something really not new at all. We started this since 2012 when the Interior Minister Eli Shai started the campaign of making the life miserable, and then Gideon Sa'ar started the deportation, and now we're having Gideon Sa'ar. I don't know what will happen next, but we definitely expect even more than this. And
when you say you expect more than this, meaning what? I mean, this is an announcement that came out 2 days ago. It sounds as if the administration, the Israeli administration of border crossing population and immigration is going to start doing this very soon, and I'm assuming in the next several days.
Right.
But when you're saying you're expecting more, what are you expecting more?
I mean, they give us options between indefinite detention or to third country, but I do think that they can do even deportation directly to Sudan or Eritrea. I really think they can do that. And again, it is sad that it comes in days that where Jewish are celebrating the freedom and Passover, and which is it's really very hard to have this announcement at this particular time. But there's nothing new about it. And once again, if we do have some other options, we wouldn't be in Israel for this long. And I have no reason at all to be in Holot for more than a year, or maybe probably it's going to take even longer, just for no reason, because I don't want to go back to my country.
If you were, for example, to go back to your country, what would happen to you?
I mean, I know what would happen to me based on the fact that the genocide is still taking place, and one of the most important thing is that I have nowhere to go at all, because my village was burned and I have no home at all. And not only danger to my life, but also to my family and my relatives. That's the thing that I'm going to face.
As we look deeper into this, the plight, okay, Sigal, actually, for the plight of the asylum seekers, an announcement like that comes out, as you said, as Mutassim mentioned, it's not completely new, but it feels as if it's about to be implemented in stricter fashion in this time and day. Is there something? I mean, first of all, is your organization worried, given the fact that the newly elected government, okay, that will have what it seems like will have a lot of faction in it that were supporting and purporting deportation of asylum seekers / migrant workers, that it's going to be hard for your organization that is based on helping them to try and pass laws to combat these laws? Do you think it's going to be harder for you?
It was harder during the last government as well. Yeah. The main problem is the escalating pressure of the government on the asylum seekers to leave, as they say, voluntarily. Now it's not so voluntarily anymore. but we see a line of laws, the amendment to the anti-infiltration law. The First Amendment allowed the detention of Eritreans who ran away from the worst dictatorship in Africa for 3 years, and genocide survivors like Mutasem for a lifetime. When the High Court of Justice abrogated this law, then the Israeli government initiated another law, the Fourth Amendment, allowing the detention for 1 year and then inventing a kind of open prison in which Mutasem live right now, called Cholot, and actually an indefinite detention over there. When the High Court of Justice abrogated...
I think, you know, I'm stopping for a second, so we have to explain that an open prison means that you basically, you have to be there, right? You're going to have to go back
every night.
Every single night, yes.
Back by maximum 8 o'clock in the evening.
And the place is run by the prison authorities, and for every little fractions of the regulation, he will be transferred to the nearby Saharonim prison. Now, when the High Court of Justice abrogated this law, the government initiated another law saying, okay, we will hold the people in prison only for 3 months, and then we will transfer them to Cholot for 20 months. But since too many members of parliament and decision makers thought this is not harsh enough, they are now trying to find a way to detain the people under the Entry to Israel law, because they are afraid that the High Court of Justice will abrogate this law as well, since it is unconstitutional, exactly like the others.
Right.
Instead of listening to the High Court of Justice, we are very much afraid that what the Israeli government is trying to do is to limit the power of the High Court of Justice, and that is really frightening for the Israeli democracy.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Looking at this, though, in detail, Iris, you're working very hard with, a lot of a lot of asylum seekers daily. When you look and you listen to the parts, because the argument in Israel by several people, by many people, is that these are people who are just coming here to try and find work, that, we can't take what they're saying for granted, whatnot. With your daily work with refugee or /asylum seekers, who are mostly these people?
The asylum seekers. People running away, escaping impossible life situations of dictatorships and genocide, just trying to survive, really. I'm sure if you ask each and every one of them if their first choice was to come to Israel, it probably would be a no. Just trying to survive, really. And as Mutasem said, their only stated policy, if you can call it a policy, of the Israeli government is to make their life miserable until they want to run away. Creates a community in chaos, really, really exposed to exploitation and just trying to survive.
Case in point, these horrific stories I think that we saw this week of asylum seekers having to leave their children in unregulated children's homes because they have no other choice, and babies' lives being lost that way. Nobody really taking ownership on that. Mutasem, I want to ask you and I'm playing devil's advocate, because there are people who will argue in Israel of why would the asylum seekers say no to money handed to them? I'm simplifying this. Being put on a plane to a country like Uganda has been floated as the name of one of the countries, I think, to be sent to. Why would you say no to that?
First of all, it's not about money at all, because one of the things is about the security. Makes no sense even if they give me $100,000 and I go back to my country or to a third country without a certain situation. For example, we have examples of few hundreds of friends who are in Uganda or Rwanda. They just stay there for 3 days, and other than this, they will be considered illegal. For example, if I'm invited by Interior Minister today and whether they're asking me whether to go back to Rwanda or Uganda or stay in indefinite detention, I ask them what are the conditions that I will, under which condition I will be in Rwanda or Uganda, but they have no answer for that at all. So meaning that people are going there for uncertain situation, and most of them are required to leave after 3 days, because that's the only days that they have they can stay in a third country. Right. And once again, I mean, why do they have to make all this policy? I mean, Uganda and Rwanda are not my countries at all. Why don't they deport me directly to Darfur or Sudan or there? So, I mean, still, Rwanda and Uganda for me is just like in Israel, like a third country for me. And at this point, I think with this step of the current Interior Ministry, this is like, I can perfectly compare really Israel to the most of the Arab countries. Like we have been to Egypt and we have been to Libya, and this is the same policy that drove us to come to Israel. And I think it's really hard to sad to see this policy.
No, it's very sad. You know, for the sake of full disclosure, the Israeli Administration of Border Crossing, Population, and Immigration, the only comment they had was actually the statement that they released yesterday, which essentially, you know, Interior Minister Gilad Ardan formulated a plan to increase the willing departure of infiltrators to a third country, and starting in the next few days, in addition to an independent appeal by the infiltrator himself, there will be an active suggestion to the infiltrator in Cholot to leave the country to a safe third country destination. I'm going to jump forward. Like, an infiltrator will be offered to partake in the program, will have 30 days to arrange his departure. A migrant who is unwilling to leave will face a hearing where it will be decided whether to move him to another detention facility as someone who fails to cooperate. Sigal, I mean, people will tend to agree that this is another attempt by the state to just push out as many people as they can. As you said about the high courts, but what can you do at this stage?
Well, the NGOs already addressed the Minister of Interior and the legal advisor to the government, saying that this is illegal, unconstitutional. We know already that these two countries that absorb the asylum seekers who are being pushed out, Uganda and Rwanda, do not grant them the asylum they deserve. We know that. We interviewed people who are there. The documentation that the Israeli government is giving to them is being taken away from them by the representative
who's receiving them at the airport.
Yes.
Yeah. And just really quickly, Mutassim, with all this happening, if we have the Israeli administration, do you still want to stay here as a safe haven?
Definitely no, because I already made my my mind the day I was sent to Cholot. I submitted my asylum request 2.5 years ago, and yet there is no decision about it. I feel I'm not secure, I'm not safe, and truly, if I have some other options, I would definitely leave as soon as I can.
But they would have to be a safe option. I want to thank you for being here, all of you. Thank you, Mutassim, as well. I apologize on behalf of the state. Do stay with us. Do stay with I-24 News. This was it for our show today. Do check us out tomorrow morning, another edition of the Morning Edition. Thank you.